What's good, everyone? Takeshita back here with another show review. Today I'm reviewing AEW Revolution from March 9th, 2025. My spreadsheet, my notes is a little out of order, so I might not get the match order perfect here, but I'm going to run down pre-show as well as every match on the main card. Kicking off, we have Blake Christian and Lee Johnson versus Komander and Hologram. These four knew this was one of the biggest moments and biggest crowds of their career and didn't care that this was at 4 p.m. PST. It absolutely rocked, not quite worth going out of your way to see it, but it was one of the better AEW pre-show matches they put on in quite some time. I thought this was really fun. I went 3.5 stars here. Next up, we had the Undisputed Kingdom and Danny Garcia versus Shane Taylor Promotions. This was fine for what it was. It was a bit of a continuation of what's been happening on the Collision with these three factions feuding. This was a get everyone on the card match. Keep the faces that matter but are treading water, doing something, getting a win. I'd love to see Shane Taylor Promotions and especially Lee Moriarty get a bit more to work with, but this role they do a good enough job at. I went 2.25 stars here. The last match on the pre-show was MXN and Johnny TV versus Orange Cassidy, Mark Briscoe, and the Costco Guy. This is really no different from the first Costco Guy match. For better or worse, it's a pain by number celebrity match. If you saw the Full Gear one, that was basically the same thing here. You had a couple run-in spots at the end to pop the crowd and send us to the main show. I went 2.25 stars on this one as well. Kicking off the pay-per-view opening match was Hangman Adam Page versus MJF, and the match that followed was Mercedes Moné versus Momo Watanabe. I'm lumping these two matches together because I didn't write notes live, and I'm recording this about 2 weeks after the pay-per-view, so I don't have a whole lot to say on either. Based on my memory, I went 3.5 stars on both. Both, I thought, tried to be great matches but didn't quite get there. I think I liked the Monet match a little more. I think I'm about normal with everyone. 3.5 on the Monet versus Momo TBS title match. I'm on the low end with Hangman MJF, but the emotional moments just didn't hit me the way it seemed to hit a lot of other people. The third match of the night was Swerve Strickland versus Ricochet for the AEW #1 contender for the World Heavyweight title. There are a lot of extracurriculars in this match that took away from it. These two have great chemistry, but the match featured a little too much Ken Jeong, Leslie Jones, Prince Nana, and Jimmy Rave's robe to really surpass 4 stars for me. I liked the TV match a little better, but this was still pretty great. Fourth on the night, we had the worst match of the show in the Hurt Syndicate defending their tag team titles against the Outrunners. I just think the Outrunners fucking suck. I went 1.75 stars on this, and that's honestly probably too high. The Hurt People are cool, but they didn't really try here, and they let the Outrunners drown themselves. These two are just blonde Danhauses that don't move nearly as much merch. They should never be on pay-per-view again. The Hurt People's finish is cool, and they did it to both of the Outrunners, which was honestly kind of helped boost this match up. This should have been a squash, and once it went past 3 minutes, every second more dragged this down. Match 5 was the Continental Championship match, where Kazuchika Okada defended against Brody King. This was an Okada 3-4 separate special. This was hard-hitting and fun, but far from great, let alone a classic. Brody is really good and did everything he could here, but Okada just saves himself for 1 to 3 matches a year at this point. I don't think we see an epic Okada until All In. I went 3.25 on this. Next, we had the AEW Women's Championship match, the Hollywood ending, Toni Storm defending against Mariah May. This was the match of the night and probably the match of the month as well. I was never all that into this story. I thought it went too long and clogged the women's division up for far too long, but god damn it, this was a perfect blow-off match. These ladies made every second of those 18 months count here, and it was all aces. This was brutal. This was cinematic. This was awesome from start to finish. I went a full 5 stars. The 7th match of the night was Kenny Omega taking on Konosuke Takeshita for the international title. This was a slower epic than we're used to with Omega, but I think this is his new standard going forward. Takeshita has had incredible Blue Thunder Bomb counters all year, and the V-Trigger counter was no different. Once we got the sauce cooking here, this is exactly what you would expect from these two. Hard-hitting signatures and great countering sequences. My expectations for this were probably too high, and even with trying to temper them, I think that ultimately held me back a bit here. I expect many people to go 4 stars or higher, but I only went 3 3/4. Our semi-main event was Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher in a steel cage match. Violence was prevalent throughout, like an old school cage match. Fletcher licked absolutely everything in this match. It felt like they were going to use the cage as a weapon the whole time, but Mark Davis eventually came down with a bag full of weapons. We kind of played the hits with screwdrivers and chairs from there, but with 2 of the best in the world, that wasn't a bad thing. Will had an Oz cutter from about 3/4 of the way up the cage, which was 6. Styles clash under the tacks was one of the grossest spots I can recall, which really sold the violence. The top of the cage spot took a while to set up, but it was absolutely breathtaking. The finish was a great blow-off sequence, just like the women's title match. I went 4.5 stars. In our main event, we had Adam Copeland challenging Jon Moxley for the world title. This was long, predictable, and boring. They didn't even have an interesting angle to close this. Just the most predictable and uninteresting finish. The crowd did not care the entire time until the ref bump, because this is just bloodline cosplay. This sucks. I can't believe they closed the show with this. I went 2 1/4 stars. Overall, I'd give this pay-per-view about an 8 out of 10. There are a lot of classics, including arguably 2 5-star matches, but the bad on this show really sucked, and they closed with one of the worst matches on the entire show. That really drug down the whole thing, but there are a lot of matches worth seeking out on here.